Sometimes a little change is good, no? It gives you the opportunity to move ahead in life, to grow and discover, to reach new bolder milestones, while still holding true to everything you stand for.
IDBI Federal has now changed to AGS Federal. It's the same old company but with a bold new outlook.
कितने सालों के बाद जन्मदिन पे मेरे हाथ का बनाया खाना खा रहे हैं।
जस्ट माई रूट्स, घर का बना खाना पहुंचाए आपके शहर तक।
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Backstage with Boria. I generally don't do it on films. I've done it with Ranveer for 83, and here's another one, very, very close to my heart. Mithali Raj is somebody I have seen, helped, supported, celebrated over the last many, many years. A very, very dear friend of mine, and it's her biopic. And this time it's being directed by somebody who I have seen grow and evolve as a filmmaker. So again, it's a very personal thing of mine. Srijit Mukherjee, welcome. Ajit Andhare, welcome. Srijit, I'll start with you. You were a cricket fan. You wanted to do Saurav. You are doing Mithali. I know how important this is to you and how important she is to you as a sports person. Talk to me about the project.
See, unlike other films where I have to do a lot of research because it often goes into areas where I'm not very aware of, this one was like right down my alley, as they say, because even before getting into the film, I was awaiting the film as an audience, as someone who follows films and cricket both. And cricket has been my passion, you know that. It's been a bigger passion than films, actually. And I remember having read a piece on Sandhya Agarwal in Anandwala when I was a child, which kind of touted her as Sunil Gavaskar of women's cricket. So from there, my introduction to women's cricket in India started, and I've obviously grown up hearing names of Diana Adelji and Anjum Chopra, and obviously coming to our own Mithali Raj and Jhulan Goswami as modern legends of the. I have kind of. I was very, very keen on watching it, but when Ajit called me and offered me this film, I was totally overjoyed and over the moon, because this was a legend we are talking about, Mithali Raj, a legend. We often use the term very loosely, but she is a true blue legend in the sense that beyond her cricketing achievements, what she's achieved for the sport, for women's cricket, and even beyond women's cricket, I think what she's achieved is kind of the example for anyone who dares to dream in a field which is traditionally or conventionally not the strongest suit in terms of it could be her background, it could be her language, it could be her gender, it could be anything. So she has inspired millions to dream. She has single-handedly changed the way the game is perceived in India, and that is what I think makes her a true blue legend. And I was frankly extremely honored to have got this.
Two questions. One, in sport, it is all about timing. And I think you all have got the timing spot on. I mean, Mithali Raj just retired, World Cup, emotion, sentiment. Already the celebrations were on. Each one of us, was celebrating a 22-year or 23-year long career. So you've got it spot on. Was that conscious? Number two, what does Mithali Raj mean to you and why Srijit?
So, so I think, have we got the timing right? I think you never get the timing right when you are aiming for it. I think any cricketer will also tell you timing happens, and then you say, wow, I timed it well. And I think this cricketing analogy completely holds true for the film, because this process is very long. When I conceived of this idea, this was actually 2017, and I wanted this film to be out actually before the World Cup. So if you ask me what was the plan on timing, that was the plan on timing, that we sort of make this film as a send-off, because the film tells you the story till the journey of the women cricket team till 2017 World Cup. So what I wanted was to really put this in theatres just before the women in blue sort of represent India again one last time. That was the plan. But several other complications as a result of through the schedule, out of the gear, and here we are. But in some other way, you don't get your square cut, you don't get the shot through point, but if you get it through cover, you take it, it's still good timing. I'm just happy that it's come to a point where we are seeing the film now on hoardings and soon on screen. So it's a dream sort of journey to go through this all. Why Mithali Raj is actually a very interesting question, and the journey is also very indirect. Actually, the journey, funnily, is through NASA. So I was actually watching a film on the contribution of women to the NASA space program. It's a lovely film by Theodore Melfi called Hidden Figures. So it talks about the women contribution in the field of space travel. And being an engineer and having been in love with physics and science, I used to think I know a lot about NASA and everything that is there, to know all their missions. I was blown by this film that these three women that have been featured in the film had so much to do with the space mission, and I didn't know about it. And I had watched this film, I think, a couple of days before the 2017 World Cup was being telecast. And I was in my living room watching this on the big screen, and suddenly it occurred to me that, look, this is the NASA situation. We love our cricket so much, we live by it. We just don't think about women cricket as much. And that whole irony became sort of apparent to me. I immediately called up my commercial and production person saying, find out about the rights of Mithali Raj, whether someone has it or not, because we've done several biographical dramas. So we are sort of experts at this bit. So I said, first of all, I need to get the rights in order. So while the match was on, I made the call. And I said, figure this out before anybody else thinks of this. And that's how it started. So the idea was to really shine light on this whole unseen, unheard, world of women cricket. And then Mithali, of course, was a natural choice, because she's seen the two spectrums, from complete obscurity to now, I would say, global recognition, because I think the team did what it did. And I think now people have started. So I think that change that one wished to sort of drive and champion is what is sort of beginning to happen. And she was the natural choice. And Srijit has already pointed out that if you to find one lead motive, one moniker for women's cricket, and a contemporary one at that, which is in somewhat a public memory, then Mithali becomes the obvious choice, being the legend.
I will come back to you on the Srijit question. But Srijit, when I take a look at sports films in India, or even sports films, it is sort of somewhat linear. And that's where they lose the plot, because it's struggle, victory, finished. How is Shabaash Mithu different? You understand, once this, and that is sort of an established formula now. And that formula sort of doesn't seem to work, because everybody knows. Here you are actually documenting a story which has multiple shades of grey. Have you been able to document the shades of grey? Because it's difficult to do so.
See, yes. So the first thing which attracted me towards the script is that it was a very unlikely sports biopic, in the sense, this is not an underdog story. In fact, if you look at Mithali's life, Mithali has had fairly supportive, parents. She comes from a fairly affluent background, so there's no financial difficulty and the usual struggle that we see in rags to riches, underdog kind of a story. And also the inflections of a sports film, as you correctly pointed out, follow a particular pattern. Here, of course, there are certain points where we do hit those patterns as well, but there are also various points where we manage to avoid those inflections, and especially the climax. When you're grown up on starting with Awwal number 2, 83, you have that final climactic. I would say a prototype of a ball being hit for a 6 and the team winning and all that. So we have managed to avoid that template in terms of a sports biopic. Of course, in terms of grey, of course, there are failures which we have touched upon. There are places where we kind of it's not all hunky-dory, as they say. And I think Mithali's life, if more or less faithfully kind of narrated, and like Ajit pointed out, we have narrated her life till 2017. So I think that the beats of that narrative is that forms the spine of the film, and that is not your typical sports film in terms of all the inflection points.
Got it. What Srijit is saying, Ajit, is important because when I see Mithali, I mean, and I've known Mithali for decades, there is a lot of sensitivity to Mithali. Reads a lot. There have been complexities, yes, controversies. So to be able to bring that to light is very, very important when you do a biopic on Mithali. But the other point I want to touch upon is when you're doing a women's cricket thing. I mean, when I see sports films, I oftentimes want to see the crowd, and people make a mess of the crowd. Here, was it an advantage that in India, women's cricket was not watched by crowds? Was that an advantage to you and Srijit, that you were able to sort of, grapple with that thing about having to deal with the crowd, Ajit?
Yeah, in a way, yes. And in a way, no, because the absence of crowd is the story, So so the whole narrative is that there is complete absence of attention on women cricket, and so therefore we, in that sense, didn't have to deal with, let's say, the physical aspect of numbers that you manage on the wider shots throughout the film, a massive scale, all of that. But what we had to do, however, was, because it's you use the word sensitivity, absolutely correct word, because it's a sensitive film more than anything else, and it's an authentic film, because I think when you're dealing with Mithali, you can't be in any other way. You have to be true to the personality that you're talking about. So the cricket had to be real as well, And typical Bollywood way of showing cricket is very heroic. You do your beauty shots and they look gorgeous, but they are just a slam of a bat. Now, in this case, the approach Srijit and I took is, she was actually coached well in a year advance, more than that, in fact, to really learn to play like cricketers. Srijit has used a lot of single takes. So you may not see some very, gorgeous looking or very cinematic shots sometimes, but what you see is a genuine cricket shot being played, which has actually been learned. So she has not acted cricket; she has learned cricket.
Love it.
She has acted the emotions as an actor, and I think that's a true blue achievement of the film. And when you see her, for instance, when we were doing some other bits of shoot, it's a joy to see, the way she stretches the front foot fully across and hits a cover drive on a seasoned ball. I mean, I was overwhelmed actually to see that transformation, because I've seen on day one how she held the bat and she stood, and I was like, this is going to be a mess.
Let me go to Srijit on that. I mean, actually, Ajit has given me my question on Taapsee. So Srijit, talk to me about Taapsee as Mithali Raj, because it's difficult. I mean, it is only natural that you don't play the cover drive as Mithali Raj, because there's one Mithali Raj, right? And across cricketing decades, I don't think anyone in women's cricket has played the cover drive as Mithali Raj. So you're doing something that nobody will be able to do it. So it's difficult. Having said that, even if it's 20% of Mithali Raj, it's a massive success. Talk to me about Taapsee Pannu as Mithali Raj.
Yes, just before that, I'll just like to add to the audience question. Yes, absolutely got it bang on. And especially because we were shooting during the times, and it was a huge challenge to get spectators, junior artist spectators to the gallery. But luckily, as you pointed out, that was, and as Ajit said, that was our film. The lack of audience in the gallery was both our logistic advantage as well as our issue in the film. So that is something which, and the other extenuating circumstances like a very, very persistent monsoon. That is how we kind of fought around it, and that is how we kind of justified that in the film. Now, also, apart from the crowd, there is something else, which again, the beauty shots, the sixers which fall on windscreens of cars and break panes of windows. So those kind of, how should I put it, cinematic exaggeration or larger than life portrayal is something which we have avoided because we've used definitely we have used footage, so we were in any case reality bound, and B, throughout the practice sessions and the development of women's cricket, we were showing cricketers who actually bowl at the pace and bat or hit balls at the pace where which actually happens in women's cricket. So that is something which we have been very honest with. We have not shown women cricketers hit the ball like male cricketers do, or bowl at a speed at what male cricketers do even at a domestic level, let alone the international level. So that authenticity is there. Anyone who has watched one delivery of women's cricket in their own life, in their whole life, will understand the authenticity of the speed which we have portrayed the game. Now coming to Taapsee, obviously Taapsee, when she started off, the cricket was the only sport she didn't play as a child, and that has been her regret throughout the training sessions, which were rigorous. But she's a natural athlete, so that went in her favor. But having said that, when I first met Taapsee, she offered me tea. I opted for a cricket bat. I told her, no, chai vai baad mein hoga. Let's first look at your stance. So my first meeting, my first dialogue with Taapsee started with the cricket bat. So I looked at her stance, looked at her grip, showed her videos of Mithali, told her that this is how a little bit of change needs to happen. This is the crouch, this is where you get up, this is how you... So that we started on a very technical note, and I told her something very clearly. Look, of course, films and everything is fine, acting is fine, but I'm ruthless when it comes to cricket because I'm a die-hard cricket buff. So you got to get the cricket right, and by getting it right, I do not mean that I will give you 20 cuts in terms of edit and build one delivery and your stroke, and someone will throw down the ball from mid-pitch and you will hit it. Aisa nahi hoga. You will have to play those shots. You will have to enjoy playing those shots, because I will also have to capture the enjoyment on your face. I will not only capture the movement of your feet, the movement of the balls, and the movement of the bat, how it comes down. I will also capture the satisfaction on your face, the grit on your face, the determination on your face, the sweat on your face. So actually, when she went out in the sun and we were shooting, and till she perfected the shot, we would go on, and she would also not complain, and I would also not, say cut and go on to the next shot.
Ajit, this brings me closer to Mithali, and that's the last question. I mean, time has flown. I know you guys have to do a lot of other promotional activities. Mithali Raj during the COVID pandemic goes to Bangalore alone, hires a flat, starts training for the World Cup bats alone. That's the kind of madness she goes through, and we used to talk every day. And this is what Srijit just said, that you've got to get it perfect. Perfection is what Mithali Raj is all about. Now, obviously, numbers nobody knows, but as someone who heads Viacom, are you happy with the creativity that you have been able to put on screen? Is that feeling 100%? Because numbers, fingers crossed, you will get big numbers and make money. But more importantly, are you satisfied?
So look, as someone leading the studio now for a good close to a decade, I've done a lot of films with very strong women characters, and women who are standing for themselves, who are not typical sacrificial characters that have been typified by Bollywood, from the times of Nirupa Roy. But women who really, who count, who have an opinion. So if you look at Queen, you look at Mary Kom, even Padmavat, these are all women who stood for a thought, an identity. So to me, I think the biggest aspect of this journey was to be able to portray a character that Mithali truly is. And I think on that count, I'm completely sort of fulfilled that we have a film which is not trying to portray a non-existing character for the purpose of cinema, which is totally removed from the person in real life. We could have taken that liberty because, given the lack of attention, we could have created a screen persona which is very different. And only those few like you or us could have known that, look, this is not the true Mithali Raj. But we avoided that. I think that is very brave. And I'm happy that we've certainly, achieved that aspect. Second one, as I said, is we have done a completely atypical film when it comes to, and people use the term biopic. I'm very scared of it because I've done possibly more biopics than many others. So Bhag Milkha was a biopic, Mary Kom. To me, this is a biographical drama. This is a film that showcases or spots, puts a sort of light, shines a light on the world of women cricket through the journey of Mithali Raj. So, biopic certainly tends to become a very typical sort of graph and template. It is not that. And I think that's the other major satisfaction. As a team, we have achieved something which is authentic. The film has a feminine energy, which is, I think, was very important to me. I think in one of the early sessions, I told Srijit as well that, to be a woman in the head. Otherwise, your response is very different to this subject, and it is the kind of sensitivity that is needed. So I think on all those counts, I'm very happy considering the amount of challenges that we had. For instance, technically what we managed, we have not, we've actually shown the real matches. We've also shot the characters. So you will see the characters playing the matches. So technically it's a film which gives me a sense of accomplishment because if you see 83, it's all largely shot. There is no there's this recreation through, through actual shots. Here we have had to marry the two. So there are some very interesting aspects which we'll hopefully talk about once you see the film. I don't want to kind of give that out, but technically also I'm very happy the way, especially our climax sort of, shaped up. And all in all, it does feel good at this stage. It's been a tough journey, but I'm pretty happy with what we have in front of us now.
Okay, I'll leave it at that with a sequel happening once I see the film with Srijit and Ajit. And, having known Mithali and, as I said, I mean, I live the sport, I live all sports. We'll do a frank review kind of stock take. And Srijit knows if I don't like it, I'll message him at midnight saying, look, that shot was rubbish. And he's aware of that. So, and we have that confidence with each other. But trust me, if I ever wanted one film to succeed, I want this one to succeed. Firstly, because of the sport that you guys have chosen. Secondly, because Mithali Raj is family. And I think if this film succeeds, what we are going to achieve is millions of people in India will benefit in the long term. It's a story of aspiration. And if that story is well told, the country benefits. Even my producer, who's a former cricketer, I know this show is very close to her heart. I leave it at that. All the very best to Tapsi, Ajit, Srijit, and of course, Mithali Raj. All of us will watch it. Post that, another conversation. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Boria. Thank you. Thank you, Trish.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.